Welcome to 6 Feet in the Six. I'm your host, Jeff Barrett with Business Interiors. Thank you for joining us today. The purpose of this interview series is for the close-knit Toronto commercial real estate industry to share ideas and best practices in order to help everyone get back to the office safely and efficiently. Joining us today is Faren Bogach, partner with Weirfoulds LLP. Faren, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
So, where do we begin? I guess my origins are I started off in Alberta, and the reason I tell this is because Charlie Huddy, who played on the Edmonton Oilers, lived on my street. So, big important impact in my life was seeing that Stanley Cup in my neighbor's house. But eventually migrated to Toronto, did my economics degree at London at Western, and then did a law degree at Dalhousie. So now I work in construction law at Weirfoulds. It's a regional law firm in Ontario. And I guess after 12 years of practice, if I look back to where I started, I never would have guessed that I would have been practicing construction law. I had worked at a small law firm before practicing in commercial litigation. And when I came to Weirfoulds, I just happened to mention to two of the construction partners that I had once had a construction file. And lo and behold, suddenly they started giving me work and more work and more work. And then I became a construction lawyer. And I haven't looked back for a minute. It's a fantastic profession. We work with really wonderful people, owners, general contractors, and subcontractors. So the people are great. The work is great. And it's been a really interesting time recently to be in.
Well, I've heard nothing but good things about your practice. Personally, how are you managing?
So this is a good week. Not always a good week. A couple weeks ago, we had two kids who were home with runny noses. So it was pure chaos around here after finally getting them into school. But I've enjoyed working at home. I've enjoyed being here. I do miss the personal interaction. We have a lot of fun at work. We work hard, we play hard. And some of the fun just isn't happening now that we're working from home. So, there are days where I really miss that pick-me-up. You have a good court attendance or bad court attendance, and we'd all get ice cream or go for a drink. And I'm missing that some days.
Can you show me what face mask you've been rocking?
So this is my special face mask. So I'll model it, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about it because it's pretty special to me.
Please do. Looking good.
So I have two young kids, and a few days before school was scheduled to start, I realized that their face masks were not going to arrive on time. And we had also been given a list of 1,000 new things that we had to buy them immediately for the first day of school. And I happened to be talking to my colleague, Megan Ma, and she asked how back to school was going. And it wasn't the right time to ask me about back to school. I was so stressed. And I said, I don't know where I'm going to get face masks in time. I have to get all of these things. I just won't be ready. And she said, I got a solution for you. And I said, what? Anything? Tell me. And she goes, I'm making face masks on the side for anyone who needs them. I'd be happy to make your boys some face masks. And I can't tell you, it was probably the most relief that I've felt in a very long time. And because she is just the most wonderful person, she didn't use her usual adult fabric. She got special fabric for the kids with trucks and bananas and everything that they like, so that they could wear them. And she dropped off 20 face masks for my kids because she thought I shouldn't have to wash them all the time and she should give me lots of extras. So not only did she do that and save a very stressed out mom, is she gave me this face mask, and she made one for my husband as well. And so every time I wear this special face mask, I think of what a great friend and colleague that I have that really helped me out of a jam. So that's why this is my favorite face mask right now.
It's a good looking mask.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine the kids have a lot of fun with it. They love wearing masks. It's like Halloween, right?
Well, at the beginning, it was the best thing because it meant they were going out. They didn't go anywhere for months. So we had to get them shoes, and they were thrilled to put on their face masks just to go to a store for a day. And, just going to school, they're happy to put it on every day. I've never had a complaint about a face mask.
Faren, in a new segment on the show, we take a deep dive on our guest LinkedIn accounts and look for posts that need more context. 1 year ago, you spoke about the Construction Act at the AGM for the Association of Registered Interior Designers of Ontario, also known as ARIDO. ARIDO naturally is an organization that we are very close with and is actually how I am introduced to you. So it would be great if you could tell me a little bit more about this event and maybe just what you're doing with Arito and your affiliation with the design community, because designers are a big part of the viewers on the show.
Sure. So I got introduced to Arito through a colleague who told us that they needed someone to speak at the AGM. And so I was in the middle of a big court battle right then. So I went with our associate, who was then an articling student, actually, Paul, and I dragged the poor guy from Barrie all the way to Hamilton to go speak at the Arito AGM. And we had a really great time because we got to tell the Arito members about some of the benefits that they would be getting from this new Construction Act. And one of those things is prompt payment, which means getting paid at a way faster pace than what was happening before, which was not getting paid on time or having your fees significantly discounted by the person you were working for, especially on a large project. So we went out there and had a great time. As you can see from the post, Paul was very animated to talk about everyone's rights, and we had a great time. But it also helped us develop a relationship with Arito. And so when the pandemic hit this year, I reached out to their executive director and said, how can we help? And she told us about a number of the issues that her members were having with understanding what was an essential workplace and not. And it was really confusing when you were an interior designer because you weren't one of the people on a list, but you were in construction sometimes, and certain kinds of construction and some of the work you were doing. And so a lot of their members had questions for us about whether they should be working and whether it was safe for them to work. So, we were writing articles all of the time to try to keep up with the announcements. I was glued to my Twitter almost 24/7 because things were changing. Every time we did a session, the news would change right before. So we always had to sort of go on the fly. And after that, I spoke with Sharon, and we decided to develop a program specifically for interior designers because they had specific questions about what was going on, and they didn't quite fit the construction hard hat approach to everything. So we launched a 5-series webinar for Arito members dealing with things from, what if you're having issues with your landlord, which I can say a lot of them weren't because they're in high demand, which is fantastic, to dealing with employment issues, construction issues, and just general corporate issues. And appreciating that times are tough this year, and even though designers were doing pretty well considering some other industries, getting money from the people they're working for might be a little bit tougher. So we have also put together a fixed fee program for Arito members. We're offering really low cost legal services to help them either deal with pandemic issues or just general sort of cleaning up their employment contracts and their construction contracts and making sure they have a proper corporate structure, sort of, I'd say, legal hygiene, because we really thought when talking with Arito, that was something their members would want. And we just launched, and we're starting to get our first few requests, and the clients are amazing, and the work is interesting, and we're trying to make designers better in the work that they do and giving them sort of the security in the contracts that they have.
Can you tell me about your book of business and how it's been affected by COVID-19?
Sure. So I think it's been very interesting how things have sort of panned out. But, our clients have been busy. Most of them have worked throughout the pandemic. So working on existing files and work, there was a brief shutdown for, a few weeks in March and April when people were trying to figure things out. But so some of our litigation slowed down, but otherwise things are sort of moving on quite well. The part that I found challenging, I guess, is trying to reach out and find new clients during this period. So, we're not going for lunches, and I miss my nice lunches. I miss the coffees. I miss meeting new people in person and hearing about what they're doing or bumping into someone on the way to work. So definitely less events and cocktail parties and opportunities to meet people in person. So I'm really trying to think of different flexible ways and creative ways to meet new people and generate new work. So one of the things we've done is we've partnered with Arito to do some fixed fee pricing and webinars for their members, way stronger presence on social media to make sure that I'm getting out to people and telling them about the articles we're writing, the webinars we're doing, or the packages that we're offering. and trying to use that to meet new people and get exposed to new people and generate new business.
What are some of the new requests you've had from your clients?
So it's changing all of the time. At the very beginning of the pandemic, I was getting calls, early in the morning, late at night, with how to deal with safety issues. So a lot of general contractors who are working on projects are responsible for health and safety on site, which totally makes sense when you're trying to protect people from falling or the proper use of tools. The people who know these things are the general contractors, and they're responsible for everyone on the job. But when COVID hit, they're now responsible for health and safety, but they're asked to be epidemiologists in some cases. What do we do? How do we help our workers? How do we keep working? We're mandated to keep working, but keep safe. And we definitely at that time in March and April didn't know what we know today about the virus. So we had to help them navigate some of the risks, use best judgment and information that was coming out from public health, and help them make decisions. I had to deal with an outbreak at a site. It was a very stressful situation for everybody. Everybody wanted to do the right thing, but it was difficult to know exactly what to do. So we helped them navigate it, and luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any other outbreaks. And then we started dealing with shutting down and what to do about giving notice. So a lot of contracts have very strict notice requirements. So if you're delayed or late, you're late because of something that's out of your control, you have to give notice right away to the person you're working for. And to date, our courts have been really strict on that and really enforce it. So, meanwhile, our clients are dealing with like life and death, I'd say health and safety. And we're saying, by the way, give notice. Don't forget to check your contract and make sure you comply. Look to see if you have a force majeure clause, which is a clause that deals with sort of these unexpected events. But you have to look at the specific one for every contract. So that was a mad rush, I'd say, in March and April. And now people are gearing up for claims. They've been, preparing their documents to claim that they need more time. People have been preparing to respond to those types of claims. And I'm starting to see payment getting a little bit sticky on jobs. So whereas before people could settle change orders and extras to close out the job more quickly, you're seeing more hesitation, more deficiency claims by owners, and more of a delay to get the money to contractors. So I expect that will continue to sort of ride out at least for the next year or more as we sort of see the financial implications of this. So it's really going to be a focus on getting paid and closing out jobs for the next while.
I have to ask, my entire industry became health and safety consultants overnight. It all came from a place of help and wanting to do what we can for our clients. But what kind of liability are we looking at here? Like you mentioned, a contractor having to have, different protocols on site that they've never really had before. And like, should they be having a medical director do that for them, or can we learn enough on our own to still be safe?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. So at first we were following just public health guidelines, and the rules provided for by the government. I think the government is really trying to help businesses operate without trying to incur more costs. But I think in some instances it is important to get professional advice, especially if you're like setting up a new workspace or trying to get people, try to work out a more difficult situation. I think getting that advice sometimes is really critical right now because, unless employers are following what the government says and they're really putting themselves at risk of claims, even if they're frivolous. I always tell my clients, like, you can't help, someone could sue you. You could be 100% right, but people can sue you. So if you can avoid any claims or issues with respect to COVID, I think being more conservative at this time is just better for everybody.
What types of programs or services have you created for your clients in response to this crisis?
So at the beginning, I think some of this stuff, when I look back, I think, oh my goodness, I can't believe we did this. Articles, we were writing articles all the time because the news was changing, and a lot of our clients and contacts didn't have time to try to filter through what was important and what wasn't important. So, we wrote articles, but we also tried to be practical at the time. And so one of the things we did is we put together like a health and safety update, and we gave all the resources, every resource, like Ontario Home Builders Association or COCA, or, everyone who was writing on it. We put all of those resources in one document. So if you were in the industry, you could just open one document. It was updated weekly, and you'd know if there were any changes, and you didn't have to spend hours of your time sort of trying to figure those things out. So at the beginning, it was finding ways to share information that was actually helpful and timely to our clients and contacts. We also did a lot of webinars, and I appreciate how many webinars there are and were, because it's so hard for us to connect. So we did a lot of information webinars. I remember the first one that we did, it was on health and safety in construction sites. It was in March. I had not learned about the Zoom webinar feature. And so we had the most chaotic 180 people on a telephone call. We didn't know how to mute everyone. Like, it was a bit of a technical disaster on our part, but the intention was good. The intention was to bring people together, because they were all calling us all of the time to say, well, what is everyone else doing? And I'm okay to play a little bit of broken telephone, but we wanted to find ways to bring people together to share information, because as much as, proprietary and pricing is important, when you come to something like this in health and safety and the way it's impacting everyone, it was important to share information to help everyone be better. And, no one wanted their competitors to have an outbreak on site. So no matter what how you feel about each other in business, we did try to find ways to bring people together to share that information. Another thing that I can't say I did it, but I can say it's a fantastic thing, is some of the women at my firm started a web series called Leading Questions, and it's geared for young professionals. And they sort of had this Brady Bunch kind of vibe where they're all on screen, and they were answering questions that, people were, they didn't want to pay a lawyer to answer them, but they really wanted to know, like, what do I do with my gym membership? And my wedding's being postponed and my vendors aren't paying me. Like, what should I be doing? What should I be looking for? And, trying to find ways to share information with people at no cost, realizing that we're in a really different time. Now I'm looking at more fixed fee pricing, creative ways to provide services to clients who have financial issues. I also am just a firm believer that the billable hour, and oh my God, maybe we'll have to edit this out from my firm, but the billable hour and the way that lawyers charge is just not the future. And we've got to be moving to more fixed fee pricing, more so that people know what they're paying for, and they have some certainty in what they're going to get and for what price. So it's been great for me. I'm using COVID to sort of try out what I've been wanting to do for a while, which is not charge by the hour for the work that we do, and finding different ways we can provide those services.
That's awesome. I mean, we're using this time to innovate as well. And, I have a feeling similar to yours, our industry is a bit of a dinosaur in how we do things. And it sounds like you feel the same way about yours.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say as well, I'm really proud of the Toronto community, and that's the reason behind this show is just about sharing information, right? Like, we're not going to have some big competitive advantage right now. And even if you did, it's such short-lived that it's not going to matter. So I love that everyone has banded together and sharing best practices so we can get through this faster. Like, that's all that matters. We can be competitors next year. Like, let's just figure out how to get back to business as soon as possible. So Faren, for the product review, what we were doing was finding relevant COVID products to talk about, but to be honest, I'm running out of products. So what I'm doing is giving the guests the opportunity to promote something that they're working on, whether it's a product, a service, a case study. So in my research on you, I did notice that on top of being one of the top lawyers in the city, you also are a tech entrepreneur, and you launched a company about a year ago. So I'd love for you to just take the floor, and we'd love to hear about it, and I'll provide some comments after.
Fantastic. So there were changes to the construction legislation that sort of came into place a year ago, October 1st, 2019. And they were to deal with the fact that money wasn't always flowing through the construction pyramid quickly, and it didn't always reach the people at the bottom, the subcontractors or people like interior designers. So the lower you were on the totem pole, the less you got and the slower you got it. So there was changes in the legislation, and so prompt payment was brought in. And what prompt payment is it's mandatory legislation that requires parties to pay or notify the other party that they're not paying within a certain period of time. And it sounds fantastic and the idea behind it is great, but in reality, it's a bit of an administrative nightmare. And so contractors or subcontractors or owners have to keep track of dates when they got invoices, when they need to pay someone, when they need to dispute something. So it's very complicated at times. And so I have my two co-founders, Jeff Sporgy, who I work with, and Krista Chater, I also work with her. We were talking about this one day because as lawyers, we go and present and we talk about how wonderful the changes are and how much work it's going to bring us and how fantastic it is. But we looked around the room and a lot of people who were sitting there were the vice presidents or legal counsel, and the people that were missing from the table were the accountants. We're going to have to deal with this on a daily basis. And when we thought about it from their perspective, we thought, whoa, no one's thinking about the burden that you're going to put on these people. So we're sitting in Chris's office one day and we're like, we've got to figure out something. We have to figure out what to do. And Jeff says, we need a calculator. And Krista says, we need an app. And I said, we have an idea. Let's do this. And so in our nights and weekends, this is where we've been spending our spare time. We developed this web-based program that helps people figure out their obligations under prompt payment. And it is meant to be something so that you don't call your lawyer and they charge you by the hour to calculate what day something is. And the software just does it for you. And so it was really, we love what we do. We love being lawyers. We love solving difficult problems, but often we get called with simple questions that people should be able to figure out on their own. But if you read the legislation, you'll be figuring it out for days. And so the software helps you answer it quickly and efficiently. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how it works, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, if you can let me share my screen. So welcome to PayPrompt. I've taken you right to the dashboard, and this is something that we created so that everyone in the construction project can know what's going on. So if you're the accountant, you know when certain deadlines are coming up. If you're the project manager, you can see what's going on. Or maybe someone more senior who just wants to have an eye on what's going on with the job, they might want to peek in once in a while. And so everything's laid out on the dashboard. And what we've done is we have different modules depending on who you are. So you can be an owner, a subcontractor, a contractor. And as much as everybody hates being called a contractor, if you have a contract directly with the owner, so even if you're an interior designer and you're doing a design for a homeowner, you are a contractor. And I know the designers always cringe. They're like, no, but we're designers. And I'm like, yes, you are. I know, everyone knows, but for the purpose of this, you're a contractor. And so what the software does is it just allows the party to answer some simple questions and get an answer. So I'll show you a quick example, which is, I'm a contractor. When do I get paid? Or I haven't been paid. What do I do? So the first step is there's a proper invoice, and this is a requirement to start the process. So we're going to say that you submitted an invoice and everything you did was right. And what day I gave my invoice a week ago. And here we go. It tells me that the deadline for the owner to pay me is October 29th, and the deadline for them to give me a notice of non-payment or disputed is October 15th. And if you don't know what the form is, it just pops up. And of course, here it is. It's not going to show, so sorry about that. So, and then it creates notifications for you. So you can send invoices by Google Calendar, you can put them in your Outlook, you can text them, or send an email to someone. And then they'll get a reminder about what the dates are. So in different scenarios, things are definitely more complicated than this, but the purpose of this is to help people understand their rights and know what to do next without calling a lawyer and without trying to figure out this complicated legislation.
I love this. My furniture company, we're constantly saying how overly complicated furniture is, and we're spending our days trying to simplify the process. And the fact that you're willing to take less fee, knowing that it's ridiculous for someone to pay you to look up a date, and you're offering this service. I mean, it's kind of like you're taking a much longer term approach to helping your clients with their business, because they're going to respect you and the fact that you're not trying to take their money for those simple tasks that they could do on their own.
Yeah. And there are instances in the scenario where someone has made a mistake and it can't tell you what to do because someone's offside, and it says, this is a time where you need legal advice. Like, the software can't tell you how to make judgment calls, but when you hit this, it's a red flag, something's not right. You might want to call a lawyer. And that's just to, that's signaling to the person that you really have a problem. So yeah, our hope is to make it accessible. It's a statutory maze for people to figure this out. And, it took us a year to figure it out before we launched. So if it took 3 lawyers who practice in construction law that long to figure it out, if you're a project manager, I think it's really challenging. So we wanted to make that easier. And then when you have a really tough problem or you want us to help draft your contract, call us and we'll help you with the tough stuff. And we know what the act says because Jeff, Krista, and I have spent all of our free time working on it. So we really understand it, and we understand you don't need us for all of it.
Faren, is there anything you want the SIX to know about you or your firm and how you're doing the fight against COVID-19?
So, I mean, we are helping clients. There's tons of stuff posted on our website. We have a COVID portal. So if you're looking for updates at www.weirfoulds.com, we have lots of information. If anyone has questions about work they're doing or an idea they have for a creative offering, please reach out to me. I'm open to learning what your business does and how we can help you get through COVID and any other challenges you face.
Well, thank you, Faren, for sharing how you and Weirfoulds are joining the fight against COVID-19. Keep up the good work.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. This was really fun.
Toronto, you're the best city in the world, and we can't wait for you to feel better again. I keep it cheesy because people like cheese.
They like it. No, it's good. I know my sister makes fun of me. She's always like, you're so cheesy when you talk. I'm like, it works. It works. Leave me alone.